Imagine like a continental chess match,
Yeah.
a real clash of titans. But, instead of armies, they're fighting for the financial future of a whole continent.
Right.
This isn't happening on battlefields. It's happening in boardrooms, on balance sheets, across some of the most dynamic borders anywhere in the world.
That's exactly right. On one side, you've got this colossal legacy giant hailing from Johannesburg, deeply entrenched in southern Africa.
Okay.
And then on the other, this relentless Pan-African challenger born out of a vision in Lomé, Togo.
Wow.
And both are just locked in this high-stakes race, planting their flags in as many African nations as they possibly can, each one aiming to fundamentally shape finance in what is truly the world's youngest and, frankly, fastest-growing continent.
So today we're taking a deep dive into this fascinating world of African banking. Specifically, this high-stakes showdown between Ecobank and Standard Bank. You sent us some incredible sources, and we're going to try and unpack the strategy, the ambition, and, well, the sheer audacity behind this financial arms race.
And it's not just about money. It's really about the infrastructure of a continent. I mean, it's undergoing such a profound transformation.
Yeah.
You've got a population barreling towards 1.5 billion people. You've got this increasingly tech-savvy youth.
Yeah.
And then there's the African Continental Free Trade Area, the AfCFTA, which promises unified trade across nations. So banks, they aren't merely service providers anymore.
Yeah.
They're becoming essential national, even regional infrastructure. So understanding these key players, their really contrasting strategies, and the visionary individuals driving them, well, it's absolutely crucial to grasping Africa's future trajectory.
Definitely.
And to really get this battle, you first need to meet the architects, the people behind these colossal visions.
Okay, but before we dive right in, just a quick note.
Yeah.
We can't possibly know every single detail behind these stories, right?
Of course.
Our deep dive, it's based purely on news reports, public statements, available financial records. We're aiming to give you the clearest, most comprehensive picture we can of this incredible rivalry.
Absolutely. Public domain information.
Exactly. So with that big picture view in mind, let's zoom in. Let's look at the individuals shaping this future, starting with Ecobank's CEO.
Okay.
Our first architect of ambition, the Pan-African unifier, is Jeremy Owori. His story is pretty remarkable, actually.
It really is.
Born to a Kenyan mother, a British father, Jeremy grew up in Nairobi. And he had this early, maybe symbolic love for competitive swimming. Even made the national team.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And this early experience, this sort of natural affinity for mobility, adaptability, it really seems to have profoundly shaped his worldview. A truly borderless Pan-African perspective.
And what's truly fascinating there, I think, is how Owori's own upbringing, moving between cultures, really embracing that fluidity.
Yeah.
How it directly translated into his vision for a truly unified African banking experience. It almost feels like a personal mission for him. He actually said once, "For me, it was always about mobility, adaptability. I didn't want to just serve a single market. I wanted to help connect African markets."
That says a lot.
It does. He trained in the UK, Canada. His career spanned these global powerhouses like Citibank, Barclays. He rose quickly through the ranks, eventually became CEO of ABSA Kenya back in 2013.
Right.
Then, by 2023, he'd taken the top job at Ecobank Transnational Incorporated, based there in Togo. And his mission for Ecobank, to fundamentally transform it. He even candidly described it himself as a network of banks, almost like this collection of, disparate entities.
Yeah.
His goal was to make it a truly single, integrated, Pan-African financial institution.
And his strategy, the way he put it, it's all about unification.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty bold simplification for such a massive entity, right?
Absolutely.
Ecobank operates in a staggering 33 African countries. I mean, that sheer scale has always been a strength. But now, under Owori, the focus is squarely on unifying the operating model. He put it very clearly. One digital backbone, one product ecosystem, one Africa.
Powerful stuff.
It's a powerful vision for a bank that literally spans the continent, a real commitment to seamless cross-border finance. Now, to really get the strategic contrast, we need to turn to the other titan.
Right, the other side of the ring.
Exactly. On the other side, we have Sim Shabala, the strategist from South Africa, leading the formidable Standard Bank Group. And his journey, well, it's a story of incredible persistence and real strategic prowess. Born in Lobisa, KwaZulu-Natal, back in 1967, his parents were both educators. He went on to get law degrees from Wits University and then the University of Notre Dame.
And Sim's rise to the helm of what is now Africa's largest bank by assets. It's truly remarkable, especially when you consider he became joint CEO of Standard Bank in 2008.
Right in the middle of the storm.
Exactly, right in the crucible of the global financial crisis. He then took over as sole leader in 2017. His core mission, his kind of guiding philosophy, is to position Standard Bank as the bridge between African ambition and global finance.
Okay, the bridge.
Yeah. He famously stated, Africa has the demographics, it has the resources, but it needs capital. And we believe Standard Bank is the bridge between African ambition and global finance. And that's not just, a mission statement. It feels like his strategic blueprint.
And you can see it in their actions. Under his leadership, Standard Bank has definitely walked that talk.
They have.
They've deepened these really crucial ties with global powerhouses, most notably through the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, ICBC's significant 20% ownership stake.
Which is huge.
It's massive. For anyone unfamiliar, ICBC is one of the world's largest banks. It's state-owned, a titan. And their investment fundamentally shifted Standard Bank's global position, their access to just immense pools of capital.
Absolutely. Game-changing.
And they've launched these bold, very targeted expansions into key markets: Nigeria, Côte d'Ivoire, Angola, Kenya.
Right. So if we connect this back to the bigger picture, you see these two fundamentally distinct philosophies playing out. They really embody different paths to leadership on the continent.
Yeah.
Awori, he sees Africa from this Pan-African lens, right? Unifying from within, striving to create a seamless financial experience across borders, trying to make banking truly borderless. Shabala, on the other hand, he sees it more from a south to global perspective, leveraging those external partnerships, the capital, to fuel deep strategic growth within specific high-potential markets.
So it's not just leadership styles.
No, it's more fundamental. It's the strategic fork in the road for banking a whole continent. One wants to be the ubiquitous Amazon of African banking.
Accessible everywhere.
Exactly, making finance accessible everywhere for everyone across all 33 countries. The other wants to be the formidable JP Morgan of Africa.
Anchoring the big deals.
So anchoring major projects, driving state initiatives, channeling global capital flows to Africa's most critical sectors. That's really the core difference driving this rivalry, I think.
Okay, so how do these sort of contrasting philosophies actually play out on the ground?
Yeah.
In the market? Well, let's look at a specific flashpoint, a place where these visions really collided head-on: Côte d'Ivoire.
Indeed. Let's set the scene. It's 2018. Côte d'Ivoire is booming economically, clocking in at, 7% GDP growth?
Impressive.
Massive. And there was heavy Chinese infrastructure investment just flooding in. The banking sector was absolutely ripe for, scale and new players. And Ecobank, they were already a dominant force there.
They were the incumbent.
Absolutely strong, expansive presence. They were established.
And Standard Bank, with basically zero footprint in the country at that point.
None.
They looked at that booming market and decided, okay, this is our moment, time to enter. Sim Shabala, ever the diplomat, right? He publicly stated, "We're entering Côte d'Ivoire not to disrupt, but to complement."
Complement, okay.
There's enough room for strong players in a fast-growing economy. Very polite, wouldn't you say?
Very polite, which raises the question, was it really about complementarity?
I suspect not.
Our sources certainly suggest otherwise. Behind those nice public statements, the rivalry turned silent, but just utterly intense. You can almost hear the real conversations, in the boardrooms, stripped of all the corporate niceties.
Oh, totally. Picture a Stanbic executive, maybe in some hushed meeting, just laying down the gauntlet. Look, we want top-tier corporate clients. We want government bonds, infrastructure deals, energy deals. And yeah, we'll price below Ecobank if we have to. We're here to take market share.
And you can just imagine the veteran Ecobank executive, maybe with a bit of a wry smile, firing back, right?
Yeah.
They want a slice of our market, let them try. We've been here since before their Johannesburg headquarters even drew a map of West Africa.
Okay.
This isn't their first rodeo trying to break into our turf, and it won't be easy. That's the real talk,
That's the kind of, bare-knuckle corporate fighting that rarely makes it into the headlines. But it fundamentally shapes who wins and who loses. And the battle, it quickly spilled into talent poaching, aggressive pricing wars, all-out PR campaigns. Both banks were just bombarding corporate banking leads with these ridiculously competitive offers, driving down margins for everybody involved.
A fierce clash.
It became a fierce strategic clash. And it highlighted perhaps the strategic mistake of underestimating a deeply entrenched incumbent like Ecobank.
True.
They had the relationships, the local knowledge, and just the sheer inertia of being there first.
Still, despite these different playbooks, Ecobank aiming for that vast geographic breadth across 33 countries.
Which critics sometimes point to.
Right. Critics argue it can leave them thinly spread, maybe with varying levels of profitability in different markets.
Okay.
And then Standard Bank going for deeper penetration in fewer strategically chosen countries, almost like a military operation, targeted, well-funded, long-term.
Very different approaches.
Very different. But despite that, both face these immense shared challenges, especially regulatory pressure.
That's a huge one. How does that specifically translate into their day-to-day, their strategic planning?
Well, take Nigeria, for example. In 2024, Nigeria's central bank significantly raised the capital requirements for international banks operating there.
Yeah.
This forced urgent, massive capital-raising efforts by both Stanbic IBTC, that's Standard Bank's Nigerian subsidiary, and Ecobank Nigeria.
Wow. Okay, so big regulatory hurdle for both.
Exactly. This isn't just some small adjustment. It's a clear demonstration of the external pressures that demand continuous resilience, rapid strategic adaptation, regardless of your core strategy.
It sounds like navigating those regulatory landscapes is like a full-time job in itself.
Oh, absolutely.
Almost like trying to play chess on a board where the rules keep changing mid-game.
That's a great analogy. It absolutely is. And then on top of that, there's the digital battleground, which is rapidly becoming the most critical front, really. It's fundamentally reshaping the very nature of banking on the continent.
Yeah, that feels like where the real war is shifting now. I mean, the continent has more mobile phones than traditional bank accounts.
Way more.
So the battle isn't really about who has the most physical branches anymore, is it? It's about who can win in digital banking.
Precisely. And again, you see different strategies. Standard Bank, leveraging its global connections, its capital. They've strategically partnered with established fintechs like Flutterwave. They're essentially buying into existing innovation.
Okay, smart move, perhaps.
Could be. Ecobank, on the other hand, true to that Pan-African unification vision, they chose to build their own proprietary mobile wallet, their own extensive agent banking network, growing their digital ecosystem internally from the ground up.
So two very different digital strategies tackling the same massive opportunity.
Exactly. But here's the catch. Digital scale brings its own set of digital risks.
True.
And both banks have had to navigate some serious reputational storms while expanding. For instance, back in 2023, Ecobank was investigated over data protection lapses in Kenya.
Right, I remember that.
And that wasn't just a technical glitch, right? It directly challenged their whole claim to be a trusted gateway. It really highlighted the immense trust deficit risks in this digital age. And similarly, Standard Bank faced pushback for alleged bias in its SME lending, small and medium-sized enterprise lending.
Which is so crucial for growth.
Absolutely crucial for African economic growth. So this just highlights the critical ethical dimension of their leadership as they pursue this aggressive growth.
It really does. And Jeremy Awori, recognizing these huge challenges, he's emphasized this commitment to ethical expansion. He stated, "Our mission is to democratize finance, but we also must lead ethically with integrity and security built into every layer of our operations."
It's a crucial point to make.
It speaks to the profound challenge and maybe even, the heroism of trying to maintain integrity and public trust while aggressively expanding in such a complex and frankly challenging landscape.
Well said.
So, okay, let's pull back a bit. What can we as listeners interested in business strategy, global markets, what can we really learn from this deep dive into two of Africa's biggest banking giants?
Well, I think for aspirant business strategists, this offers some invaluable lessons. First off, the story of Ecobank and Standard Bank clearly demonstrates there isn't just one single way to conquer a market.
No single blueprint.
Exactly. It's about clarity of vision, sure, but also extreme adaptability and just an unwavering commitment to your chosen path, whether that's Ecobank's pursuit of ubiquitous breadth or Standard Bank's disciplined depth.
The power of individual leadership here is just undeniable, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The contrasting styles. You got Jeremy Awori, charismatic, fast-moving, globally and Pan-African-minded, versus Sim Shabala, meticulous, measured, strategically focused, but deeply anchored in African economics. Those styles directly influence their company's strategies and ultimately their outcomes. You also have to ask yourself, which path resonates more with your own approach?
That's a great question for listeners. And moreover, resilience is just absolutely key. Both banks face these constant, unpredictable regulatory shifts, immense competition, reputation risks. It demonstrates the fundamental need for continuous vigilance and, frankly, radical adaptability. It's a constant battle just for survival and growth.
And crucially, that digital imperative we talked about.
Yes.
How both companies embrace or, build their digital solutions is arguably the most critical factor for their future success in a mobile-first continent. It's not an option anymore.
Not at all.
It's the main arena for competition now. For anyone looking at market entry or growth in dynamic economies, this story powerfully illustrates those trade-offs. Do you build your own infrastructure, or do you partner with existing innovators?
And it offers crucial insights into those big strategic questions. Do you pursue breadth or depth? How do you balance that aggressive expansion with maintaining integrity, managing reputational risks in such a transparent world?
Okay.
And maybe most importantly, how do you pivot? How do you pivot when the playing field shifts dramatically, which it constantly does in dynamic markets like Africa?
Yeah. This deep dive into Ecobank versus Standard Bank, it really isn't just a rivalry, is it?
Yeah.
It feels like a compelling reflection of Africa's growing confidence in itself and its economic future.
I agree.
The war for Africa's wallet, it continues, but it's not one single war. It feels like many battles for clients, for favorable regulation, for essential capital, for the best talent, and maybe fundamentally for the trust of an entire continent.
Well put. And just to give a snapshot, as of mid-2025, you still see Ecobank operating in those 33 African markets, maintaining its vast footprint. Standard Bank is in over 20 markets now, but generally with greater assets per country, which reflects that deeper penetration strategy we discussed.
Okay.
And both are absolutely racing towards fully digital-first models. They're actively engaging in crucial areas like green financing, expanding that vital SME credit, and really trying to bolster intra-African trade finance across the continent.
And Sim Shabala, looking towards the future for Standard Bank, he summed up their evolving vision pretty well, stating, "The future isn't about size alone. It's about trust, resilience, and true regional integration."
Which shows an evolution, perhaps.
It does.
And Jeremy Awori for Ecobank, he echoes that fundamental Pan-African sentiment. Ecobank will be the trusted gateway for intra-African trade. No matter where you are, we'll be there. We are Africa's bank.
So one bank wants to own the map. The other wants to anchor the future. It's a truly fascinating story, and it just continues to unfold.
Constantly evolving.
We really hope this deep dive has given you, the listener, a bit of a shortcut to understanding the powerful forces shaping it all. We definitely encourage you to keep a close eye on these two giants, see how their ambitious strategies ultimately play out.
And maybe the final thought is, as Africa continues to rise on the global stage, the stakes just get higher and higher. What is their ultimate success, or just the evolution of their strategies? What does that mean, not just for the continent itself, but maybe for the very future of global finance?
Something to think about.
You've been listening to Empire and Legacy, African Business Chronicles. Our hosts are Zuri Mwangi and Kwame Adeyemi. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us on LinkedIn, WhatsApp, X, Instagram, and YouTube. All links are in the show notes. Subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast platform, and share this episode with fellow business leaders. Main episodes are released each Monday. Our hosts delve deeper into the CEOs at the helm on Wednesdays. On Thursdays, we explore the global perspectives, the standout businesses and CEOs, emerging trends, and geopolitical developments, presenting both risk and opportunity. We're back each week, sharing more stories about the exciting business rivalries shaping the future of business